This week's podcast will be a bit short, and we're talking about female solo safety while traveling in India. Just take me away. Welcome back to the podcast. Now, I am very pleased this week to have Mary Ellen Ward with us to talk about a topic that, quite frankly, I am very interested about because I have very little first-hand experience. So, Mary Ellen,
yes,
welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on as a guest.
Oh, I am thrilled to have you here this week. So, before we get into the topic at hand, please tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, well, I'm a professional travel writer, and I live most of the year in Toronto, Canada. I'm from Toronto, but I consider India my soul culture. I have lived in Japan. I've traveled a lot. I've traveled a lot in Asia, but it was the day I landed in India that I knew I'd found my spiritual home and that my cultural home. So I've been traveling now regularly to India over the past 8 years, and about 17 months in total traveling in India altogether on 6 different trips, and I've been from one end of the country to the other. I usually travel by myself and have a really wonderful time, and I publish a travel blog that's largely an India travel blog. It's called Breathe Dream Go, breathedreamgo.com. And Breathe Dream Go is kind of like you might think of it as a mantra or a formula. So you take a deep breath, breathe, get in touch with your dreams, and then go.
And then just go.
For it.
Go
for it. Yeah.
Now, that's very cool. Now, you said something that really piqued my interest. You said as soon as you arrived in India, you felt connected. You felt that this was your spiritual, your cultural home. And I had a similar experience when I moved over to Asia. I just felt really connected to being here. And what exactly about being in India made you feel that sort of connectedness?
Well, it's I could probably, it's really more than anything else a feeling of a deep, uncanny feeling of familiarity. I mean, my ancestry is largely British, I guess.
Okay.
We've been in Canada for many generations. There's no real reason why I should feel at home in India. I'd never been to a place like India. Well, there is no other place like India before I went there. But the day I landed on December 6th, 2005, I'm telling you, the very first day I was there, I just had this uncanny feeling like this is home. And it just grew and grew and grew the whole time. My very first trip there, I stayed 6 months, and believe me, by the end of it, I did not want to leave. No. And I'm always wanting to go back to India.
I can imagine that. I certainly have affiliations and feelings to certain places in Southeast Asia where I travel that just speak to me, and I just never, ever want to leave.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was. I'll never forget. It was. So I was leaving on June 2nd. This was 2006, and my friend was driving me to the airport, and I felt sick. I felt like I was going to throw up. I felt like I was being driven to, prison or something.
Oh no!
I really, really didn't want to go. And so now I've basically tried to, over the past 8 years, organize my entire life around being able to travel in India to my heart's content. So I'm trying to, build up my my blog, and I'm trying to build a travel business and a whole bunch of other things so that I can do this absolutely full time.
Oh, that is really the dream. And speaking of dreams, a lot of people do want to travel to India. And as I alluded to earlier, it's not a place I've been to. And being a male, I certainly travel a little bit differently than certain other people. So one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast is to talk about women's safety issues and solo traveling in a place like India, because there certainly is something awesome about that country that draws a lot of people to it. So what can you share with us about this topic?
Well, there's two things, and they're both true. It's like one of the reasons India is like no other country on earth. It just isn't. And people do. It's true. You either love it or you hate it, and you feel drawn to go there or you don't. If you don't feel drawn to go to India, don't go. That's what I always say.
Oh, really?
But
Okay.
If you absolutely, it's too difficult. But if you do feel drawn to go, then absolutely you should go, because when you go to India, it's an experience. It changes you. It's like my blog tagline is Tales of Travel and Transformation. India changes people. So you have to understand that this is not a vacation, that you are really going to have an experience. You are going to be thrown up against everything you hold dear. You are going to be pushed to the edge. You are going to, it's not for the faint of heart. It really is for the
Examples. You can't say all that. You're gonna be challenged emotionally to the core. What are some examples of
absolutely
of,
and spiritually?
Of this?
So you just have to keep that in mind, and that appeals to some people, and it really doesn't appeal to other people, and that's okay. That's just fine. Don't make yourself go to India. But if you're like me and you felt compelled to go, which I did, then you're probably the type of person who's up for the challenge. And somebody asked me, could I just put it in a nutshell? What is it about India?
Mm-hmm.
And what I came up with on the spot, Dorothy Parker was, India forces you to say yes or no. You don't have any other choice. You go to India. If you say no, just get on the plane and leave. If you say yes, go for it, and it will change you. It will broaden you. It will open you. It will do things to you never thought possible. And so definitely, if you're the right type of person with the right attitude, you can travel very successfully in India and have a wonderful time.
Before we get into the travel, let me just ask you, what is something that challenged you, and one way that you changed after your first trip there?
Well, I mean, I could write probably several books on this, so it's kind of almost hard to isolate one thing.
First thing that comes to mind.
The first thing that comes to mind is learning a different way of being in the world. A different. To call it patience is an understatement. It's really about accepting what is. So we in the West, we're very individual oriented. We think our willpowers control the world. So we think we can make things happen, and you can come up with this brilliant itinerary with these complicated travel arrangements, and pit yourself against India and decide you're going to conquer, but you will never win. India will always win. So, for instance, if you've come up with this plan and you're going to take this train and you're going to take this bus and you're going to go here, here, and here, and the whole thing falls apart because of delays, the typical Western,
Oh, are you there?
Get annoyed or angry or frustrated. This does not work in India. Not at all, to say the least. And you'll only drive yourself crazy and everyone around you. It is much better to just accept that this was what was meant to happen, and to believe that, not just do it in a light way, but actually really believe it. Okay, I missed that, the train didn't go, but that means I'm supposed to do this instead, and fully embrace that. So we have this saying called going with the flow, but this is in a very profound sense. I think that's one of the things that India teaches you.
Yeah, I certainly find that traveling throughout other regions in Asia as well, where maybe there's one bus, one boat, one train to a destination that you're trying to reach to, and it decided to leave 15 minutes early. And now that's just the way things are. So now I get to have an extra day here and explore another facet of life in this particular region. So topic.
They have a saying in India: God knows best.
God knows best. Yes, absolutely.
God knows best. But the reason I tell you all this, it sounds like I'm avoiding your question, and I'm not, because that's what I'm referring to. This kind of having the right attitude to India is far more important than considerations of gender, and gender has taken a big focus in the media, especially. There's been a big topic of conversation. Certainly, and the media has really zeroed in on whether or not India is safe for women, and I've been interviewed many times about this topic, and my answer is it's not whether India is safe or not. That's not the right question. The question really should be around how you travel.
Okay.
It's not whether India is safe. It's like, how are you going to travel in India? That's the issue. So I have a lot of tips on my blog, top tips for women traveling in India, and I have to say really is do your research, find out about the culture, find out what's appropriate, use your common sense. Don't, take unnecessary risks or chances, and just recognize you're not in Kansas anymore.
True.
I travel successfully in India, thanks, and I have a lot of gratitude and say a prayer of thanks for that so far, and I hope that continues. And you know what? I have a lot of respect for India. Like, I don't play fast and loose with India. I mean, you really have to understand that it really is a different culture. The genders relate differently. You can't flirt with an auto rickshaw driver in India. You just can't. They don't know how to take it. They don't. I shouldn't say they don't take it the same way. Put it that way. They don't take it the same way as they would, in North America. You have to respect the culture.
Are there any things that I would say would be considered "quote unquote" common mistakes that some people would make in addition to flirting or trying to use feminine wilds to get a special deal or to lure something into getting some special kind of treatment that people should be aware of?
Well, I don't really have a comment on the whole feminine wiles thing. That's a topic for another day. It's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is just, especially women, and we're brought up to be kind, gentle creatures. We don't always achieve that, but that's how we're brought up, and we're brought up to be polite and caring and all these lovely things. But you know what? Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes in India and other places, you have to be very curt. You have to be what we might even consider rude. You have to say no. You have to walk away. So I think a common mistake is being polite, where it's actually, not only is it not required and not necessary, it's probably going to get you in, more harm than good. It's going to do more harm than good. So I think sometimes you just have to be very tough and just walk away from people who are harassing you, and forget being polite. Really common mistake. And of course, I'm not talking about all the time. I'm just talking about, certain situations, because most of the people in India, I've found 99.9% of them are just absolutely, lovely. They're the nicest people I've ever met, the warmest, the friendliest, the most smiley, the most hospitable I've ever met anywhere. So the media has unfortunately concentrated on the exceptions, the bad apples, rather than the majority who are absolutely lovely people. But so, I mean, I'm not talking about being, hard and mean all the time, just when it's appropriate.
Oh, sure. And that's one thing you keep in consideration with any, I guess, form of media is that, the old adage, if it bleeds, it leads. So you find one bad thing and just blow it way out of proportion. And unfortunately, people jump to the incorrect conclusion that represents the entire spectrum of either a population or
it's so
country.
Ironic, because they have actually been voted the most hospitable people in the world, and it kind of breaks my heart, and I know that there are some careful that there are some thugs, like I know that, but most of them are not, and it takes time to know who to trust in India. I always recommend people either travel with somebody who knows India or go on a group tour, a small group tour, a private group tour. I'm offering them. I'm partnering with some companies now, and I'm offering these services from my blog so I can help people travel safely.
Oh, cool.
I always recommend that. But another top tip I have is and it's going to be a surprise, of course, is how you dress. And politically, of course, no, I don't think women are should. I think, of course, men should be in charge of their own behavior, and women should be allowed to wear whatever they want, but that's not the reality on the ground. India is a traditional culture. It's changing, especially in the big cities, particularly Mumbai, I would say, more than anywhere else, and Goa. But everywhere else besides Mumbai and Goa, I would say absolutely err on the side of caution. I wear Indian clothes in India. I swathe myself in flowing layers of, and I think that's the way to go. I think you're just, asking for unwanted attention for sure if you dress in a kind of immodest way. I don't think it's a good idea.
No. Well, Mary Ellen, unfortunately, that will just about wrap up our time for today. But again, thank you so much for joining us this week on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And again, to get all of Mary Ellen's links, be sure to check out the show notes. They're available on QiRanger.com. You can find her blog address there. You can find her Twitter handle. If you want to get in touch with Mary Ellen, that is the place with the links. Now, I will be back in just a second, so stick around. Thanks everyone for joining me this week on the QiRanger Podcast. I'll be back next week with a full-length episode. So until then, stay true to yourself and always be awesome. The QiRanger Podcast is written and produced by Steve Miller and licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Morning Blue is written and produced by Josh Woodward.